Good morning. If you could please have your seats. I had the most awesome thing and awful thing happen to me, which is my slide deck kind of exploded last night. So I spent some time rebuilding it. I have a lot of information to go through, and hopefully by the time I'm done, you will want to try this at home, unlike what my t-shirt may imply. And there is a prize if you find something interesting and approach me and show it to me. You could win, or rather receive, this shirt. Oh, one moment. It's not a used t-shirt. Oh. Lightly used. Only partially worn. You could win a nice holiday shirt, very festive for the coming holiday. So, as I said, my talk is called Ninja Looting Like a Pirate. Standard disclaimer: no enforcement to be here, no gun at my head, no offers of valuable items. There unfortunately will be bad language in the presentation because normally I don't get to speak to people, and I'm very happy when I get out and get a little over myself. I come from here, lovely city known for technology, lovely Baltimore, not really. And I'm a pre-1986 kid, so boom, that was my gateway drug. I also do like to hack the human body, throw people around, choke people out. It's amazing that only 3 things can stop a conflict. And if you remove any one of those 3 things, there is no conflict. Air, mobility, and the breathing thing, the mobility, respiration, kind of working hand in hand. That guy was fine, by the way. I also like to rock a sweet bandana, work on my Jeep. And I'm a professional, so I have these. That's a long story. Never worked there, but this is what happens when a company gives you cool blue shirts instead of a raise. And your employees come in, having decorated them with Best Buy accoutrements that they picked up off the internet. So, why are we here? We are here because in today's society, we actually sit on top of the largest data repositories that have ever been known. Literally access to everything. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a little trip across the 3 dubs in a way that you may not have taken a trip across the World Wide Web. So we're going to look for some hidden things that people have taken from other places and placed on their sites. And we're going to take those things for ourselves. And mainly it's items that you normally find using technology that has been demonized simply because you're sharing things that you should not share. So today we're going to pretend to be the bad guys, but we're going to be the bad guys utilizing Google as our agent. A couple of terms. I don't remember if anybody remembers back in the BBS days. If there's anybody in the room do BBS, rocking it, awesome. I used to co-sys op a BBS called the Digitalized Fortress, which was pretty cool. And we had people on our boards that were like leeches. You put something up, people taking, that kind of thing. Today they're more like ninja looters. They try to sneak in, take stuff, and just kind of rob a site blind, but never put anything up in certain areas. Today we're going to be ninja looters, just like in MMORPG. So, how did we get here? We got here because people wanted to share things that may or may not have belonged to them. And the first tool that kind of let us know that, outside of private groups and the like, was Napster. Napster was created back in the late 90s, and the individual that developed it was like, okay, I want to share music with my friends want to share music with me, and then it ended up being a tool that was utilized to share music for the world. And obviously it was immediately demonized because the music they were sharing was deemed to be copyrighted material, and it was. The funny part is, in the second iteration of Napster, it actually became a actual professional business, and it became Rhapsody. But Rhapsody was not doing as well, and they actually had to change the name back to Napster because it had better branding. So later company projects did follow. The sharing example had pretty much become the standard business model, and the interface that they developed pretty much still rules today. Like if you look at the other interfaces that have come along, and there will be other examples of those, this interface was created by individuals who were not actually very, very good programmers. They weren't solid in programming, but they developed the interface for usage and thought, okay, this is the essentials of what we need. Fun fact, I don't know if anyone ever played with Napster back in the past. Of course, they can't see your hands, so you can actually put them up. But funny thing was, you could also directly interact with the IP address on the distant end, not just for the music, and you could surf other people's machines through that Napster interface, which was actually kind of funny. If you're like, oh, it says I can actually look across the machine, so why wouldn't I leave the area that I'm in and go look at other areas of the machine? No one would ever actually do that. That's always theoretical, of course, but the fact was, it gave you that option. Nutella protocol followed Napster, was actually kind of developed almost in parallel around that same time frame. And this was actually developed by individuals who were programmers. They were programmers from anybody? Anybody? No? AOL. So they were programmers from AOL, and they said, you know what, this Napster thing's kind of cool. We can do a better job of this because this is what we do. And they did get in a lot of trouble for creating this protocol, which became pretty much a de facto standard prior to what we recently demonized, which is coming up. So as they developed the Nutella protocol and different interfaces and services became available for it, it grew to a point where there were 1.81 million computers that were utilizing that application and that protocol. And that's a lot. Like, that is a massive amount. That took what Napster was sharing and before it got all shut down, and just, boom, exponential growth. So if you looked at the actual amount of traffic that was going on, it was a ton of traffic. The market share was, as my slide indicates, more than 40%. It was a very, very popular application. Lots of, and that's verified by the fact that, yes, there was literally a different, does anybody remember any of these? Anybody? Yeah, it was like, oh, come on, BearShare, LimeWire, those were just like, they were pretty much giving stuff away. So their interface, not as simple, because they're professional programmers. Here are the things that we would want. The average person, not so much. So it was a little more complex. It gave you a lot of different options as to what you could actually do once you were looking for targets. Still running to this day, by the way. Oh, there's my, anybody that's watched the South Park. Remember berries? But no, those were really amazing applications for their time. Like, you could really get pretty much anything that anybody else had. And the same situation was true. If you weren't protecting your machine, there were ways of you to actually, traverse the machine. Not saying that I ever did that, but saying it was a choice. So, in the respect of those technologies being placed out there, we had a flexible container solution and feline separation that was pretty dramatic. Like, it was something that the world had never seen before. I am going a little fast, but there is a reason, because I want to get to actually, no, I do not, sorry. I want to say something at the end, but I'll wait. But yes, in terms of how the technologies were viewed, they were immediately demonized. Press took to it, they lit it up. Nobody was happy. But wait, there's more, because now we have an even faster solution, in a peer-to-multi-peer fashion. And if you've ever seen or utilized any of the torrent technology, you know that with a standard connection, decent pipe, you can pretty much pull 4.7 gig down in virtually no time at all. It is amazing. And this was also embraced by standard companies where, hey, we have a distro. We don't want to pay for that bandwidth. We're going to put one copy out. Everyone starts to replicate it. And it really offloaded that on them and save them money. Unfortunately, because technology is demonized, there's some places where you might work, you may pull down, I don't know, standard version of Solaris and have the security team come and say, hey, you're using criminal technology. I'm like, what is criminal technology? Because I've not heard of that. Like anything, it's a tool. Say again? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you had a comment. Yeah, so criminal technology because you're using it in a fashion that they don't understand that this is actually something standard, although people do use it for sharing information they should not share. Interfaces are very simple. Does anybody recognize any of these? Like transmission? Transmission, awesome. uTorrent, pretty awesome, but straight BitTorrent, of course. Never liked Azure because it was like ad-ridden and took up a lot of your bandwidth with junk. It was like, no, I don't want to buy your boner pills, thank you. But it was. Say again? Yes. Yeah, no, the first version was pretty clean, but then it was like, well, we can also make some extra money on this. Let's put some ads in. And the spam that just came through there was just ridiculous. Never liked that. So once BitTorrent hit the scene, it was seriously nothing like that previous cat walking out of the bag. That cat didn't walk out of the bag. He made his own way. So as I said, media, they totally embraced that BitTorrent thing. They demonized the hell out of BitTorrent. They made it sound like it was the coming of the digital antichrist. But the funny part was they demonized it, but they made money off of demonizing it because people flocked to these sites. I had to put Attack of the Show in there if anybody's a fan. Hey, awesome show. Sorry to see it have gone. But they made money by talking about the technology. They made money by talking about people who use the technology in a bad way. They never talked about any of the positive things that the torrent brought to the table because remember, does good news sell? No. Bad news runs a marathon. Yes, sir. That is true. But even those that put it in the correct context, what they did was they would have disclaimers to the technology, indicating that like we are just reporting on it. Like I'm talking about dedicated computer-related news sites. They would say, we're just reporting, we do not condone this technology. I'm like, why? But so what you're saying is you demonize the technology. Yes. Right, because they didn't want to seem like they were promoting it. But the more people talk about something, what do readers do? They're like, well, I wasn't interested in that. But now that you talk about it, let me go see what this torrent thing is all about. So the developers were very concerned. They took to heart what was said about them. And no, they just thought that haters are going to hate. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. And to this day, the torrent is still around. It is still surviving. So good for the torrent. So we talked about the past. And remember, we're bad guys. We're being bad guys today. We're faced with a choice as bad guys of knowing that there's a gigantic treasure trove below our fingertips. And we have to ask ourselves if we're going to take advantage of it. With this lovely Shakespearean paraquote. Like, to loot or not to loot, that is the question. And the answer is always to loot. like the answer is always to loot. Like, you're a bad guy, you don't play by the rules. Like, so you're going to take stuff. The funniest part is we're going to be able to do this by using very, very simple commands that are actually available to you, despite the fact that the manufacturers told you to use some other things. Because we're going to go from anybody ever read Google Hacking for Penetration Testers, Volume 1, 2, 3. 3 is good. It's consolidation of the both of them. But yeah, that is just like, boom, mind-blowing uses of Google. We're going to do that today. We're actually going to make Google our agent to go and do the things that we want. So that makes this proverb true. Is a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing because you're gonna go over 4 commands. I say 3 because the 3 main ones are the ones we're going to cover. But the 4th one is choice 2. And it will show you the World Wide Web in a way that you have not seen it, or may have not seen it. So here are our weapons of choice. As I said, we're going to use it as a file type command. Using the file type command with whatever the extension is, meaning a PDF or any of the standard formats. You can also utilize it for audio and video. But in this case, these are going to be of your concern. And whatever the variable is, you will find so many things. So many things that people may not be aware that are out there. That file type command can allow you to find internal documents for corporations, documents that are marked confidential to a corporation, internal phone books, things that would be great if you're a social engineer. I'm not saying that I am, but pretty sure I'm not the only person in the room. The Google index is what we're going to be looking at, where we're going to look at what Google believes the site to be made of, not the site itself. And you don't actually touch the target until you go to grab it. And you may or may not be using a VPN, so they're not coming back to you. And you may be incognito mode so that it does not log itself into your thing. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Utilize an in-URL command. We can use it to look at literally any URL. We're going to do straight HTML, but you can also do FTP sites and the like. And the in-title command, as I said, we're going to utilize the index and whatever we're looking for as far as the index goes. By doing that, Google's telling us this is what when we search the web, we're looking at it from the front end, the 3 dubs, boom, that's what it looks like. When we search it this way, we're looking at the index. This is what the site is made of. And that is where things get interesting. So our tools, because we're going to need them, and they probably exist in your office or on your system. And if you're a parent, you do not want your kids to use this tool. So we have a choice of tools. Tools or browser. We have to pick one. Choose wisely. We're going to choose Firefox. Seriously? That's a party foul. Because despite what people may say, the Microsoft browser is still closer to being a browser than literally any of these others. The reason why we're going to use Firefox is because, and I actually had this, I'm a Nova Hacker guy. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself as that. I am a Nova Hacker guy for the North Virginia Hackers Association. And my first talk there was WhatsApp with that. And it talked about how we in our lifetime have ruined browsers. We have made browsers shitty. And shittier we keep making them because there's no such thing as a browser anymore. It's a mini operating system on which your user is the administrator. Yeah? And I presented my talk in that I have a browser. I'm running a web server out of my browser. I have a mail server out of my browser. I'm the damn admin. Because I've been on engagements where we've actually found a guy running an entire business, it was porn, out of his browser. And I'm like, oh. And I made the comment because you used to be able to put POW into Firefox, which was plain a web server, and it was supposed to be restricted to your network. But there were a few hacks to get around it. So yeah, it's like running an entire business out of their business, and we're like, there's a giant repository of, oh my goodness, there's your guy, it's your man right here. This is the only machine. So yes, we're going to use Firefox because as the administrator on our Firefox, application, we can do literally anything there. So we've chosen wisely. I kind of already did this slide because there's a lot of stuff in that browser. Makes it perfect for looting, unlike a lot of the other ones. Which amazingly, the hypocritical thing is that Google, Chrome browser, doesn't allow you to steal from Google. It has lots of things that prevent you from stealing from YouTube and anything that is Google associated, or that just doesn't make any sense. But there's other things that you can take from, and they're cool with that. The extensions didn't allow it. This is kind of an eye chart, but Mozilla had a response to why their browser's configured the way it is, and stated we were never intended for the corporate environment anyway. Because if you work in corporate environments and you're utilizing, Firefox or any of the Mozilla products, how often do they update? Is it regular? No, it's friggin' haphazard sometimes. They'll update 2-3 times in a week, and people are going, our people don't keep up with that. Because there's standard patching schedules for a reason. Mozilla's not that corporate browser. It's more for your home use. But as I said, if you have kids, or people that you may or may not trust, this might not be the browser you want them to use. You want them to use something that's centrally managed like Edge or IE or something where you can actually control what they can add on. And these just don't allow that. They allow the person to make that choice. And sometimes they're going to make a choice to loot. I know I would. So we're going to pick our add-ons. If you don't want to buy a VPN, there are several that are actually free. It's like 100 and some of them. And you can go out there and pick them. And you want to pick a VPN if you do not have one. Actually, just quick survey. Does anybody in the room not have a VPN? Okay. That works. You want something that's going to obfuscate you away, even for your standard provider, because what do they have a reason to know what you're doing? You know, doesn't make any sense. So you're going to pick an actual VPN that resides in the browser, and then you'll start to loot. As you loot, you'll receive the web like this. In this case, at the time of this, I think this is from November of last year, I utilized the file type command to look at all the PDFs that Google is aware of, and there were like 2.3 billion of them. That number has almost doubled, I believe, by this time frame. And you can look for samples of different elements. And I encourage you to do this. If you have a laptop right now, please feel free. When you start using certain terms, then you get specific things. Like when you're looking for internal use only. I wonder what comes up. You may find out. When you start looking for taxes, forms, literally the things that people are supposed to be protecting, court records. I'm like, wow. Yes, sir. Cameras, yes, but you don't use the file type command for that. There are other commands that you can use. But yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, actually what's really funny is with the secondary commands that you will learn, let me get by this so we can get to that. So this is utilizing the in URL and in title command in order to look for comic books, which people have a ton of them. But getting back to your cameras, so you can find cameras, but sometimes you're not really looking for if you're not looking for an actual online camera, you can just go look at people's Google Drive, which is kind of funny because people share it out. And they have a lot of material in there that is copyrighted material. A lot of sites that may or may not know that they have copyrighted material on them are on them. And we're not really the bad guys, so we can actually use this technique to find out, does my site have this stuff on it too? So it actually there's a benefit to actually running the commands against yourself, your actual web presence. But yeah, this site, I'm sure he totally paid for all these Superman comics and all the Batman, Justice League, and everything else is in the parent directories. He totally didn't, but it was hilarious to see this. And that is just from running the command. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did not, which is hilarious to me. And you already heard this talk too, so. But yeah, so continue to use the in URL and in title command to look at the index of what Google believes the site to be made of. This is my man in Iran. This guy is amazing. He has an extremely nice catalog. It is well documented, and we have the phrase for people who pick locks is nothing's ever locked because you can pick it. In this case, nothing's ever missed. If you've ever seen anything on TV, there are people that have it. The part that really kills me is under the threat of death in this country, this guy is selling US TV. Movies, they call them a series or series. I guess it is series there. When they have different shows that have recurring episodes, and it just killed me. I'm like, and they go the distance. They actually have translative sets, .srts, that, they'll subtitle it. You can look for that, and you're going, okay, they don't understand language. If someone's taking the time to step into the role of the actor and translate, for them, or they even have audio, where they have the audio that matches what it is. It's hilarious. All from your browser. You have not loaded a tool onto the network. You have not picked up a client that we've saw before. You just have your browser. I'm sure, again, these movies were completely illegally obtained because other sites actually had the torrenty things on them. Like if you ever look at torrents, just for research purposes, you would see that you completely for research. I'm a researcher, I'm the good guy. But you can see that I actually at the bottom here started saying, I said, oh, these are actually available. Can you actually pull them down? And attempted to pull some down, and then obviously canceled them because, yeah, they were totally coming to my machine. I did not need that headache. This is another site looking at their film index. I don't know if you can, that's actually kind of small, isn't it? Batman vs. Superman. Yeah, any movie that comes out, people have the old school cam rips, like the dude sitting there with his phone in his pocket now, not just like a camcorder, which you can totally see. He's got his phone in his pocket. He's just watching the movie from the middle, not moving. I'm like, that dude is totally recording the movie. Well, here's where it ends up. Like any movie that comes out in the theater is usually up on someone else's site or on a torrent site, and it's hilarious. So they pulled them. Oh yeah. It just killed me. I'm like, okay, so from just my browser, I'm able to find all this crazy loot. That's yes. Oh yes. They'll have yes. But oh, actually, what's really funny is that the ones marked Farsi are actually in Farsi. Like that's where they've dubbed the audio over it, even before the studio has dubbed the audio over it. Here's where I have a bunch of examples, but I really encourage you guys to actually go out and enjoy it. Enjoy looking at it and doing the research. There's one in particular that's on here, and if you go to this site for starving writers, I found these two sites. Starving Writers is an interesting site because it was people that were selling like scripts and the like, and they're like encouraging you to, hey, use me, that kind of thing. But what I found is they'd also embedded this site in them. So there was a site in the site. Like they had taken it, and on this site was it Black Sails and a whole bunch of series off of Stars that don't show up on the site when you're looking at it standard view. But when you look at what it's made of, you're like, oh, what are these movie files or these series files? And it's not the standard available view to you. But if you look at it from what Google believes the site to be composed of, the index, it's like, oh, here's all the movies, here's music. They had comics up there. They're reviewing comics, but they had the actual comic there. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then audiobooks that basically all the stuff that you'll never rent, buy, or lease, available to you. And then the Swiss Bay they're not exactly a torrent, but they're not exactly legal. So that was kind of interesting to me. I was a little bit shocked by the fact that a lot of the sites, I can honestly say that about 70% of the sites that I looked at had, even sites that were just completely normal, had stolen content on them. One I'm going to bring up, and it was disturbing, and I actually brought this up at our group meeting, and everybody had the same response of, oh, you cheap bastard, get another site. Looking at people's personal sites, I saw there was a guy who was a programmer, and he was promoting his Uber Christian, thing. And so I said, okay, what's your site made of? Start to look at the site. I'm like, oh, well, you have a series of stolen books right here, all about programming. It's like, that's weird. And then I start pruning the URL, changing it was a numerical scheme. So I'm like, oh, well, look, what if I put a 1 here, or 2 here? And I started putting that in and found his family photos. I was like, oh, lots of pictures. Start going through. It's him, his wife, kid, and he talked about being a Christian programmer. And not the same thing wrong being Christian, but it was just like, okay, he was really promoting that. Keep pruning, adding more numbers, and then I come to pictures that were not in line with what he was promoting. And I stood there like, did I mess up the URL? Let me go back. No, I did not. Let me go forward. Apparently his wife was a swinger, and he was videoing it and taking pictures. And I'm like, okay, here's the problem. You're a programmer. You have kids or kid. If you're growing up and you're making them into programmers, interested in what daddy does, they're just going to look at that site. You really don't want them to look at that site. And some people in my group's response was, get another website, you cheap bastard. It's $12. Like, why would you put this on here? It's like, we all had the same reaction of that. Oh, that is a whole new level of no. So, just kind of weird, but people do what they do. And how dare you ask that question? Of course there is, but it's literally what powers the internet. Wasn't looking for that because that's literally everywhere. You don't need these techniques to find that. But the problem is, no matter how deep your logs are, no matter how extensive they are, you would never see this as unusual traffic because the person is accessing through a standard browser the World Wide Web. They just happen to be saying, Google, if you've indexed this site, what's this site all about? Show me the components. And so it's a great way to surf. It's a great way to look at things in order to see what the site's actually made of and see what else the site may have that is not visible to you at a first glance or through a standard view. There's your loot. That's it, right? But no, because even without the Google dorking, you could still loot a massive legal repository that no one seems to block. If you block this, that's awesome. Most people do not. And it is a very acceptable means of mass distribution. Can anyone tell me what it is? Anyone? No? So I have another disclaimer in my disclaimer. And that is because we're going to talk about YouTube. Or this version of YouTube. Because YouTube is ridiculously large, amazingly vast, and has just a crap ton of things that in some cases violate even their standard use practice thing. Even after somebody's identified that there's a problem, because they're now owned by Google, they don't make it between you and them. They make it between you and the person who's perpetrating the crime. You have to do arbitration between the two of them, versus in the old days when it was YouTube and you could go to YouTube and say, hey, fix this. You have content that should not belong on there. They're like, okay, cool. You go talk to dude. We're going to let dude know you're talking to him. Like that's not cool. It's not what you signed up for. So massive repository, a massive portion of the traffic on the internet is involved by YouTube, was caused by YouTube, because people, they want to see videos on every mobile device they have, on their laptop, desktop, and pretty much that makes this kind of horrible. At the time of this, there were 5 billion videos there, being watched every single day. Most people watch them for just a few seconds, up to X number of minutes. But the fact is, they generate a lot of traffic, got a lot of content. Good times. So with that in mind, and the fact that we know that we've been talking about stolen material and on people's private sites, here is a search for audiobooks on YouTube. I came across a channel that has 23,000 audiobooks on it. There is no way that person paid for all of those. That channel is still up. So if there's an audiobook you're looking for, just arbitrarily put in YouTube, audiobooks, and it will really help you out. A lot of old books, a lot of personally published things, but amazingly a lot of things that came directly off the torrent. and I can say that pretty much unequivocally because the extensions on them you can find on torrent sites. Like it's the book, but then it's like, YTS, or, and I'm like, oh, that's a known individual that distributes. Yiffy. Also a favorite. If you punch Yiffy into YouTube, you will find movies sometimes still in the theater. If there's a movie that comes out usually between 2 and 3 weeks, it shows up on YouTube. And it's hilarious. Usually it's a camera rip, but eventually it may become the real thing. Law Abiding Citizen was a good example. Notice the date this was published. It was August 10th, 2016. It had been up for a year when I looked at it. And I was like, well, this can't be the whole movie. This is the whole movie. And if you've ever seen this movie, it starts out really disturbing. Yet, no PSA, no warning, nothing. YouTube wants to pretend to be television, but not so much, because you don't abide by the same things. They subsequently took it down, and it immediately came right back up. So then it was up for a month, then it was up for 3. I think now it's been up for 6. And the funniest part about this was, when I started looking for it, I'm going, oh, but YouTube also sells movies that you can watch. Oh, you could either pay to watch this one, or you could just watch New Action Movie 2016, Law Abiding Citizen. Oh, yes, they do. Yes, sir. No, you are correct. They will put a picture up and they'll put a disclaimer saying YouTube is taking the video down. There is that. There is that. There are those that it is the length of time of the movie, and it'll be, yes, an ad to say go to our site to get the full movie. But that was not the case with this. And that was weird to me because it kept continually being put back up. people will actually, and they do change the titles. It'll be like, you know, new exciting movie 2017, you know, or action film US. And then you have to kind of go to it to find out what it is, but it's usually the entire film, and it doesn't come down. They also utilize some other techniques, such as they will do embedded images in an image or embedded images in a video, where they have a pattern that's wavy, and then the movie's this big, but if you have it on a 60-inch TV, it's viewable. They will do a static image and then have the box in it, because if, again, violating your policies at work, and if you're interested in checking if people are doing that, people can put in terminology here to look for porn on YouTube, and it is there. It'll be embedded in an image or embedded in a video, where it's the smaller thing in the video. It fools their algorithm. It allows it to be up somehow, and it shouldn't, because you can put in all sorts of terms that are not supposed to be on YouTube and find them on YouTube. So, like I said, like sometimes they do obfuscate the name, but other times it's the real thing. Babylon AD, horrible movie, but it's there. That Frozen is just a clip. Dogma, that's not a clip. Infamy, that's not a clip. Those are actual movies. So, getting back to the torrent, if you put in your torrenting commands like S01E01 for Series 1, Episode 1, amazingly, shows show up on YouTube. Farscape, awesome show. But they do show up, and it's hilarious. Like, you're able to actually look for entire series. One example I have is I may or may not have been looking for. Anybody remember a show called Space 1999? Yes. The great show, Martin Landau. It's horrible now, but, you know, it was great when you were a kid. I went looking for it. I'm bouncing around. I thought I had found it utilizing the other techniques, and I attempted to get them. They were AVIs. Like, wasn't available to me. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I won't say where they were actually hosted. I will after I finish talking. But I was shocked that I could not get it. Like, I saw things that I actually couldn't get. I went, oh, these guys are actually doing it right, where they protected their proprietary information from being taken. But it's okay, because YouTube totally gave them up. Like, both series were available on YouTube. I was like, that's awesome. Every episode is right there. That was just kind of crazy. But as I said, YouTube, they're trying to be more like a television station, because they have like YouTube Red, Kids, all that other stuff. But they're not. They're just not. You don't have any of the standard things that you have in TV, where someone's reviewing the content of the material and ensuring that that content is appropriate for the age group that it's for, or for general audiences and like. So they don't have this. You know, and without that, that allows some really odd things to show up on YouTube. Yes, sir. Oh no, I'm not. Uh, uh, and that does draw attention to it, as with anything, and then people actually go to those sites. And in this case, this is, anybody ever heard of a Serbian film? Oh, I wish I was in the place that you are right now, because it's horrible. It is a horrible movie. It was up in multiple languages. The thing that frightened me the most is this one's been up for 3 years. This one's up for a year. It is, the best description of it was given by someone where they did it as a cartoon. And it was, you know, kid sees pornography, kid becomes jaded by this, kid kills best friend. I'm leaving out some parts. Kid kills best friend because of trauma. Like, that's the gist of it. But I can say that one good thing is, unless you're logged in, when you attempt to get material off of YouTube, you encounter that, right? The content warning that prevents you from getting it. If it's content controlled, it pops up literally every time. The bad part is, there are sites that will allow you to get it even if you're not logged in. This is one example of Save from Net. You're like, oh, well, I'll just feed that URL to Save from Net, and then, yeah, I want that at 720p. You've never logged into the site. Yeah, yeah. There are a couple. I picked these guys because they actually had an add-on, but then the add-on's kind of malicious, so you don't want to put it on something you care about. But it'll do the same thing where it pulls the content down for you, or it'll pull just the audio or the video without the audio. Why would they do that? Oh, wait, dubbing. You know, it's like they just have it set up where it's like, we're not saying that we condone what you're doing, but we understand, and check out our click revenue. So I wanted to see if it could actually work. It actually does work. Like, okay, this is the cleanest scene I can show you from that movie, and that's sad. It's a horrible, horrible movie, but you know, what are you gonna do? Research sometimes sucks. Face of Death, anybody? Remember? Yes, sir. Seriously, it is. Ooh. Yes. Thank you, PW Crack. Oh, the beginning of Law Abiding Citizen is completely like PG in comparison to the things that happen in that movie. You're watching like, this doesn't even make any sense from a continuity perspective. Face of Death? Remember Face of Death? Every episode, every version of Face of Death is on YouTube, including my favorite, the 30th anniversary edition, which in 4 years it's been up. It's like, this has content that I'm pretty sure violates your, you know, whole content thing, but yet you're allowing this to be up, lots of clicks, all that stuff. I was like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. Blu-ray 30th anniversary edition, yay, Face of Death. Again, you don't have to actually log in, you can grab it. Kids, same thing, you know. The movie's disturbing because the actors all look very young, even though they were all of age. But, yep. Content warning. Bad side is, comes up. You don't have to do anything. It like plays. Several versions of it, actually. I was like, but there's like graphic, you know, sexual things going on. That violates your thing, but yet it's still here, YouTube? Really? Like, and as you can see, this was uploaded in 2012. Yes. That's another movie that, really? Oh. Yes, you can find Ken Park, Short Bus. Essentially, 7 of the 10 banned films are on YouTube right now. And those films are banned for a reason. And we just named 3 of them. Yeah, there are some films there where you're going, oh, also awesome episodes of Black Dynamite, completely up there, completely cheesy. So you're going to need some add-ons. You can pull add-ons to just pull your MP3s. Again, we're the masters of our domain in our browser. So we can pull that add-on and say, yes, I would love to have just the audio out of YouTube. Let's say you've gone to a site where you're like, oh, I like that, but I want to change the format of it. In the browser, you can put an add-on that actually do a media converter and convert the media from one format to another. If you don't like it in MP4, it can be AVI. Again, you've never loaded anything on outside of the browser. It's just all in the browser. Does that sound like a browser? Sounds like an operating system to me, but you know, Say again? Somebody say? Yes, yes, yes. It's like an Emacs plugin. Like, this is not a browser, people, and it hasn't been in years. You know, because Lord, I gave that WhatsApp with that talk like 6, 7 years ago. Like, yeah, browsers are horrible. I wouldn't want my users to get their hands on them. But the fact is, that's your tool. That's the thing that you actually would use. And by using that, you've now been able to collect even more loot. So you've got your hands on even more loot because that's the friendly, acceptable, nice thing that comes in your environment. And if you're not careful, your user population can use different add-ons and plugins to pull things onto your environment that you would never want. You know, like plain and simple. I don't have the example in here, but there is one where even Game of Thrones, I'm sure there's nobody in here that watches Game of Thrones, they have the Game of Thrones episodes up, but they have them as like 3 episodes at a time. You know, they'll have a movie title like The Fall of Meereen. It's like, no, this is Game of Thrones. It's like, because there's dragons right there, Like, oh, they're totally killing off, these individuals. It's Game of Thrones. They've put together episodes to make it a movie. So therefore, it's not the TV show. It's a movie entitling what may or may not be happening. So like I've kind of alluded to, you can have problems in your home, on your network, if you're at work, legal team, and your HR department. These individuals can all get involved. How will they get involved? Well, if you pull movies or content to your environment that is either acceptable or even unacceptable, you're probably going to end up talking to these guys. Probably a given, because you will have violated something that you may or may not know of, and it's totally legal, like, because you shouldn't have been using the environment to store things on the network that you shouldn't. And because you did that, that team will probably have to get involved too, But and everybody loves to sit and talk to lawyers. I know. I do enjoy my time with them. And there's that. I just want to state that the resources that I did use were obviously the Google Hacker for Pen Testing. Big up to Johnny Long. He's awesome. And I've talked to him. There's one other thing I've left out, that if you also want to have fun and not be yourself, there are ways of utilizing those same tactics to look at .onion sites that people tend to be really careless with when they're not in the .onion environment. If you go looking for .onion things, you may find that people have placed their treasure trove of what they do there on the surface web. So they think it's pretty safe, and I'm talking about their usernames, passwords, and the like, and all of the .onion links that they traverse. 3 commands really allow you to look at stuff. But in this case, this is the file type command. You're looking file type for the .onion elements, and you're able to find text files that they have where they have put their items in. And I would never go online as someone else, but I can confirm through someone else that it actually does work, that people have their usernames and passwords for their access to hitting up Tor, and they may be careless with it, which is completely crazy to me, because a ton of links that are all active. And in some cases, even their storage that's below, like, totally crazy to me. This is literally the combination of 3 talks that I gave. I gave a talk called YouTube, and the WhatsApp with that, and a talk on torrent and technology such as that. And how I got here again is, as some of you in the room may be, through misspent youth. So that is pretty much what I want to say, and I'm actually a minute over, a minute under. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. Yes. I didn't say I downloaded them. I said I attempted to and then killed it. I'm responsible. Yes. That funny part is absolutely none. I found no malware. The items I was looking at, I did play with. How do I put this? I did look at some people that had what should have been questionable content, but the funny thing that I found, because I'm trying to cover the spectrum, I found people who had taken courses in the United States and gone back to their native countries and put them up on their university. Looking for .isos for CEH, looking for all sorts of classes. I'm like, that's course material. So somebody physically took this, and then they took the material and went back home and said, well, I will share this with the university. I'm like, okay, that's completely off the charts wrong. Like, the other stuff is bad, but that is for, and I usually start this talk with, if you work in media or multimedia, I am so sorry for you. There is literally no way to stop your product from being had, because the product is the advertisement. You want people to see it, and you make it available, and then someone gets it, or you don't pay an intern enough when he's transporting the master from one place to another. He stops at a place and gets $1,000, and then he moves on with it because it takes virtually no time to copy that item. But no, I have not come across malware, not on the surface sites that I've gone to. You sound as if you... I was playing with video, audio, correct. If I were looking for some other things, certain applications, or that you may have had to pay for, yeah, that totally, of course, trialware, yeah, that's what I meant. You will probably come across some things that are quite infected with other things. But the thing that baffled me the most was that, yeah, like with nothing, even if you got rid of today the technologies, torrents or any of the file shares, Google got you. Like you can just go in with the Google techniques. And they've tried to tell you that you want to utilize modified versions of them, like they'll tell you to use the file type command, but you don't use the arguments in order to find things, and it'll find stuff. You want to use the old school file type colon, variable, what you're looking for, because that is very specific and it points to where it is. And by utilizing the index, you never touch the target until you're ready to pull something off the target. You're just looking at the index. You can go to the Wayback Machine and also see things that people took down. I mean, it's kind of cool. Yes, sir. Great question. No, they do not work the same as they do in the Google search engine. And I'll go as far as to say that I've even used like Yandex. I've gone to the Chinese browsers. I'm like, these Google commands work best in their own environment. They do not work as well in other search engines, which is kind of odd, but it's just kind of the way it is. The Google search engine is just optimized for those commands. It does not work as well in others. Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of, because when I did do this talk at Nova, I actually had other browsers up. Excuse me, and yeah, the search commands do not work as well. I'm not saying there's not other things you can do, but and I didn't bring up the fact of, or I did. I talked about the people's Google Drives. People leave their Google Drives completely unprotected. One thing I left out is that when those sites do go up that tell you where something is, like for YouTube, one thing that makes it very difficult, obviously, for YouTube to find out if that those sites are available is the fact that people, when they come down, they do seem to come right back up. And people have this amazing obfuscating method of keeping people in the loop to know when, hey, the site was taken down, it's now this name. And it's called Reddit. There's a subreddit. You may or may not want to write this down. There's a subreddit that actually tells you what's available on what type of media. There's one called, Movies on Everything. It's a subreddit. There's others where it's full movies on YouTube. And every time a site gets taken down, the guy goes in there. Sometimes they don't even change their name on the channel. They just change the channel. Change the site name. It's still me, Dark Baron 52. And here's the same material. And YouTube does nothing. And I don't understand it. But yes, if you look at the subreddit for movies on YouTube, full movies on YouTube, you will find if a site's gone down and the material's back up. You can look for movies on anything, also a subreddit, and it'll cover Vimeo and all sorts of other technologies that are not YouTube, where people have placed stuff like the Super Bowl, or other material that you just normally should not see. It's frightening, because again, if you work in multimedia, you want people to pay for your content. If someone sees your content or gets it, whether they record it with a webcam or whatever, they have it and they're able to just put it up in literally any format, including the darling that is YouTube. If there are no more questions, thank you and go play.